Union County School Board will come to order this time. I'd like to ask Mr. Asbell if he would lead us in our prayer this morning.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for a wonderful day to join together. We ask for your wisdom and your guidance as we make decisions today. We ask your blessings on our school system and all those that our school system involves. And we thank you once again for all the blessings you give us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Asbell. Ms. Pam, are there any changes we need to make to the agenda before we adopt it?
No, sir.
Okay. I will call for a motion to adopt the agenda for today.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second adopting the agenda. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Have a number of people out there. However, if you are not on the agenda but have anything to address the board with this morning, now is the time that we would ask you to present yourself and do that. Clarkfield,
Sir,
we just wondered if you were paying attention this morning.
I don't have anything to say.
That's the first. Moving down to item E, then on the agenda, new Wilson Middle High School site prep, ACA Construction Group, Mr. Edison.
Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, today's an exciting day as we literally begin to plow new ground. And today I'd just like to introduce to you Ken Osley and Todd Duffy from ACA Corporation, and then we'll present to you the GMP for the first phase of New Williston Middle High School. That's guaranteed maximum price.
Space one. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just wanted to briefly go over it because of the time constraints. Obviously, we're doing this in a two-phase. First phase is the site construction, and then the second phase will be the building construction. So what we're presenting this morning is the phase one site construction, which will go concurrently with the building construction. So the schedule is exactly the same. It will begin now, but it will go all the way until the end of the project when the building is complete.
Okay, so we're still shooting at a completion of June 30th.
So that's what the contract
A
is.
substantial completion, and then you guys move in there and someplace. Yeah.
You want to go over the,
I mean, basically for this first phase, what we've kind of done, like I said, for the amendment, we have a fixed fee, which was already, pre-approved. We ended up just taking, 3 months of that, which was, the site construction that's kind of in this GMP part, and has been subtracted off of what you'll see for the second phase GMP is. And then, we put together what is the general requirements, and for this first phase, we basically ended up just for mobilization, we kind of broke out, setting up our trailers and things, a lot of upfront costs, and so there's, of our general requirements, there's $150,000 that's right now in this first phase. Our overall big picture of what we have budgeted is right at about $900 and some thousand for the general requirements altogether. Those costs are actually costs, to do the project, and those dollars are completely always documented as it's spent on a monthly basis. I mean, it's like actual cost. So if it's not used, we'll get it put back into the school somewhere, some way. If that helps clear that up. I mean, ultimately our cost is really our fee, and that's what we've negotiated to make everything outside of that is the cost of the work. So
The total for this GMP for phase one first page.
And this first phase, it's basically all of our site construction, clearing and all the underground utilities, and all the fencing that's involved in the project. Because the first thing we want to do is end up securing that site, and we're going to start putting up our temporary fencing. And then in the back areas, we'll actually go with what will be the permanent fencing at the very end, and it still kind of works as our construction fencing.
So the way,
Doing that,
so the way it works down, the cost of the work, general requirements, $207,000, subcontractor bids, site 3.8, for a subtotal of 4, and then you have ACA bond and insurance at 66, and then the fee in there for a total of 4.437794. And this is all inclusive. We took the test borings, but we also went out and dug over 50 test pits to assess the soil conditions. So this price includes any and all remediation of soils, rock, anything like that. So it's all inclusive of that. The only thing this wouldn't cover as it relates to site is if there were a void or a sinkhole that was discovered. Outside of that, this is an all-inclusive price.
We feel very confident of going out there, digging our own separate test holes and things, that the rock that we're going to encounter is included in this price. So you're not, it's not any additional cost or anything that you'll see us come back and forth.
And in case you drove by the site, you'll see we've already started to mobilize equipment on the site in anticipation of a good outcome today. So as soon as you give us go, weather permitting, we're turning dirt and we're moving immediately. So,
Board members, any questions or comments?
Excited to see this happen.
No, sir. You did, okay.
Mr. Alexander, if you would have anything you'd like to input to the board concerning this project?
We're anxious to see it get started. We know that it's very well needed, and we're eager for ACA to go to work. I think this price is exceptional compared to what we've seen in the history, recent history. So I think it's all doable. We've got a good thing going. Just need to get going.
yeah, we felt like we got really good coverage on our subbids, really good participation from the local subcontractor market, and as a result, we feel like we got really strong pricing, so we feel very good about it.
You need a motion from us.
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment. This is what Ted shared with me earlier, and I thought he'd share it with y'all.
Well, I didn't think it was quite appropriate.
Well, not everything. But the old Williston High School facility and the middle school, we have babied it and put lead stick and rouge on it, and we can make it last another year and a half, but that building is spent. I mean, it cannot move forward. And we have no more capacity to add electrical outlets to it, computer connections. It's all, we got wires running across the boards everywhere. And I'm glad OSHA is not here. But, we do not have a choice in whether we want to move forward with this project or not. We've got to do this, we've got to make it happen for the sake of the Williston community and children.
I do say the sooner the better.
I'm saying that we're moving as fast as we can, and they have agreed to get that school open, and, without, we don't have a plan B. We're there, we're going to get it done, and they have dedicated this project to them.
I move we accept the site prep GMP from ACA Construction for the new Williston Middle High School.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, hearing none, motion carries. Get to work.
We'll get to work. Thank you very much. We look forward to it.
And I would like to say too, you know, we'll be mobilizing our trailer and things out there, and we'll, you know, start getting those phone numbers. I'll bring them over here to you guys. Anytime, you know, you guys are always welcome on site. We'll be glad to, you know, share with you what's moving forward. We'll have hard hats.
Yeah,
We'll have
all
hard
the
hats.
safety stuff will be, you'll all be required.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I did speak with the horse farmer adjacent to the property yesterday and told him that we would be in construction today. Good. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Item F, carrier update round. Ms. Kaylee.
Mr. Duffy, y'all are certainly welcome to stay, but if you want to go get to work, that's up to
All right, we
you.
appreciate it. We don't want to stay.
Thank you, guys.
Your hole needs digging.
We can go back to them, state. We don't have to.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Superintendent. I am pleased to present Brian, Ellen, and Christina from Care Here in Crown. They are going to give us a yearly update on our care center. Before they begin, Jeff is going to read some emails that were sent out by employees, and I wanted to mention these were unsolicited emails. These were done on their own time, their own free will.
As Kayla said, we just happened to receive 2 emails from 2 of our staff members, and I called both of them and asked them if we could share it. I think I forwarded both of these emails to you, and I shared them with Kayla to share with our Care Here partners. And the first one comes from Ricky Richardson, who is a teacher at Chief Elementary School. It says, to whom it may concern, I don't know whose idea the Care Here clinic was, but I just wanted to say thank you, that's in all caps. The care is wonderful. I have gone several times in the last few months with my husband after he received a heart stent. They were the doctors who caught that his cardiologist put him on 2 medicines that you cannot take together, and they also caught that he should have been put on a supplement and wasn't. I went today before school, I was in and out and back before school started. I cannot say enough good things about the job, about the Care Here clinic, and just want to let anyone and everyone involved in getting us this doctor's office great job. And the second one comes from Amy Jo, who is the health aide at Williston High School, and she sent this out to all of the Williston High School folks. It says, good morning all, I just want to share with you that have health insurance through the school board of Libby County. If you have never used the Care Here clinic in Bronson or haven't been since they made improvements, I would recommend it. I recently had an appointment there where I was very pleased with the doctor, staff, and care that I received. I ended up having to have a large amount of lab work done. I went to 2 appointments, spent a lot of time with the doctor each time, had all the blood work done right there, received the results, which were explained to me in great detail, was prescribed 2 medications that were filled right there on site, and I left with them that day, and they sent in a referral to a specialist in Gainesville for me, all at no cost, 0 cost for any of it. It was very convenient and obviously nice not to have to put anything out of pocket. They were able to assist you in so many ways, it was worth looking into. These services are also available to your spouse and dependents as well if you carry them on your insurance. Even if you choose not to use them as a doctor, they can do your lab work and fill your prescriptions if they have that prescription available from your doctor in charge. So 2 testimonies as to the quality of care there, and I know I have been, and I know Mr. Turner shared in the past his experiences, but that just kind of sets the stage up for today's presentation.
Morning, board. Morning, Superintendent. Look, this is the one here. Thank you for reading those. We really love to hear those stories. Staff at the center love to hear those stories. That we're truly able to make impact in people's lives. And we're blessed to be here and appreciate the opportunity that we're given to serve the school board. So in July of last year, we went through a 6-month, kind of give you a snapshot of where we were. And today we're just going to walk through, although the presentation looks a little different than July, we're going to walk through the same information that's updated through the year. So we'll go through appointments, utilization, participation, take a look at some of the top diagnoses that we're seeing, talk about the HRAs, the health risk assessments that we've had, and the participation there, and talk about the prescription services, and the number of scripts that have been sent out at the center, and we'll talk through some of the health plan highlights where we've updated through the last 12 months in terms of what we had projected to how we fared out. There's a lot of numbers on here, but just wanted to have just really to focus on the appointments column there, which is first one in on the left side of the column there. The capacity is the number of total visits that we have available at the center, and the 4169 number is the appointments that were utilized at the center, which was 75%, which is very good for a first year, very good. I'm going to run across the bottom on the totals. What this is it's adding up our ancillary visits, which is our lab visits, anything like that. Health center visits, which would be our medical appointments. And occupational, we just recently, towards the end of the year, we started to do workers' compensation visits for first reported injuries. So that's going to, in turn, also, we're looking to save dollars on our workers' compensation as well. And then we did an off-site flu shots as well. So those are in there. So we ran for the year at 75% in terms of our capacity to our appointment ratio. 66% of the visits were done by employees, 2% by dependents. And that's not, the 2% is a number that we've actually got some action items to start really trying to involve the dependents more, trying to get them into the center. The no-shows, again, at 4%, that is right in the target range of all of our health centers across the state. 4% is a normal range. In terms of the unique patient participation, we had a total of 598 unique bodies come to the health center. 77% of the employees came to the health center at least one time, which is outstanding. And again, we're going to work on the dependent side, but in terms of the employee participation, very, very good. Health risk assessment, 347 employees had health risk assessment, so half of the employees had, which is also, again, first year, very, very good. You see we did 11 spouses, 6 childs, and 12 retirees had HRAs done. And again, this just breaks down the number of the HRAs by the age demographic and gender demographic. So no surprise here in terms of our breakdown of where our age bands fall in terms of our HRA participation, and obviously high female population, those numbers are going to be looked that way. Top diagnosis, again, this is prevalent in every health center that we have operating in the state of Florida. You see the skewed numbers in obesity, you see it in hyperlipidemia, hypertension. Those types of things are, why we focus so many wellness initiatives on those chronic conditions, because those comorbidities, and a lot of folks here have one or three or two of those issues going on, and that is again why we focus so heavily on those things, because they drive so many costs on the plan. So if you take a look at the aggregate lab values, these are taking a look at when we have an HRA or have a blood draw, when we have the 26 panel ran. These are some of the panels that we get readings on, and this is particular to your center and to the folks that had HRAs. And again, it coincides with the diagnosis and where we like to focus our wellness initiatives to. The doctors are, just like the email that was discussed, you know, the doctors actually taking time to have the patient understand what's going on with their blood workup. You know, we just, one of the emails, I believe, cardiologist had 2 medications that they're contraindicating one another. So, in this, again, no surprise, hemoglobin, A1C, we're high on those, and that's where we focus, is on the highs. We're going to focus on getting that population on the plan over to a borderline and get the borderlines to the goods and start shifting. So over time, again, when we talked about this nearly a year and a half ago, you know, this is a long-term process. It's not a overnight fix. We've got folks on the plan that are ill, and it's going to take time to shift them over. So over time, what we'll do is when we come back again next year and go through this, we'll give you a snapshot. Okay, are folks getting well? Are we shifting that population towards a better number? So this is not a slide that is meant to say that this is what we're going to save. This is more of a snapshot of showing, based on the identifications through the lab scores that we've done through our lab draws. These are national costs when a patient, for example, if you look at the top, the glucose serum marker of 105 or higher, we've got 68 members that scored higher than that, and on a national cost basis on a plan, it's about $10,683. So if you look at that number over time, these are potential plan costs that could come onto the plan. So when you talk about cost avoidance, this is the potential kind of cost avoidance by interceding into these folks' lives and start shifting and getting to a better number. So over time, we can save dollars on the plan. So we talk about RX dispensed. We dispensed just over 2,400 medications at the center, which the point is to pull services away from the plan because it's more costly to go through the plan and not try to refer back into the fee-for-service model that we're trying to avoid because that cost is so expensive. So we kept 93% of the medications we were able to dispense on site. 6.7 or 175 of the medications were written and had been filled off-site onto the plan. We have brand name or some type of narcotic or something like that, which we obviously don't stop. And you can see the types of medications that we're dispensing at the health center. Again, this is just going through the actual name of the drugs and what we were dispensing. So in terms of where we were talking about this 18 months ago, I think it was, you know, the plan was either stay fully insured or let's do something different. Let's put a health center in. Let's look at going self-funded, and I think over time this is the right decision that the board made. You know, I think with the stories that you're hearing, you know, folks are getting the care that they need. So when you take a look at the left column, the fully insured premium, the renewal basis, and again, I adjusted this for what if we would have stayed fully insured. So this is reflective of the enrollment through the course of last year. So the premium would have came in at about $4.6 million. And the claims are in the red, and it's hard to see, it's 2.9 million is where we came in last year in terms of claims. And on the right-hand side is the other components that we needed to have in order to be self-funded, and that is having our Florida Blue as a TPA, or the ASO carrier. And we had to purchase stop loss in case of it, we had a shot claim. And of course, the cost of the health center. And those numbers added up to $4.33,101. So in terms of fully insured to self-funding of what we did through the course of the year, it's just a little over $300,000 difference. This is the budget. When we first talked about this 18 months ago, this was the budget that we had put together. And you see, we were very, very close. If I go back to the next slide, the $456,000 is the ASO fee for Florida Blue. The budget was $475,000 for the projection. $374,000 in the stop loss premium, and we came in at $368,000. And the health center was at $550,000 operating cost, and our projection was at $641, so we came in a little underneath that number. And again, the claims liability, that was our maximum claims liability, what we had anticipated to fund for. Worst case scenario, we came in at $2.9 million, so we were underneath our liability there. So this is where we actually, in terms of what was actually budgeted dollars to what was actually spent. At the end of the day, we had a surplus of $124,000, $776. And we were running very, very well in terms of the claims through our first 8 months. And our last 3 months, we ran 1.3 million in our last 3 months. But you know, typically in the year, folks, deductibles are satisfied, they're getting things done. And our discussion last week in terms of plan is healthcare across the board, across the state. What we've seen is, and what we'll have to keep an eye on is, in terms of your plan, is particularly the prescription cost. There's a massive movement in biological drugs, which we've seen on some plans that are you know, the cost of the drugs are going on the plan spend. It's typically around 20% of the total spend of your healthcare plan. We've seen some that are exceeding 30%. There's a drug out there that you may have seen now that there's infomercials on it for hepatitis C. It's called Sovaldi. We had one claim already at another school district. It was an $83,000 claim for one treatment. So those are. It's hard, as we were telling the team, it's hard to shift a drug that's $150 on your plan to an $8 drug. That's a lot of shifting to try to save those kind of dollars. So in terms of the plan, we just need to make sure that we're protected from that, because those are real costs that could happen from a specialty type cost. So other savings, we started bringing in our DOE, our bus driver exams, off-site. Previously, it was costing us about $160, or costing the board about $160 per exam. And through the last year, we did 99 of those, with a savings of $15,840. This is looking at what the employees have potentially saved in terms of co-pays and out-of-pocket costs. We did over 3,200, just right over 3,200 medical visits, and I used the $25, the lowest end on the co-pay, just over $80,000 in co-pay savings that the employees avoided. So in terms of the RX side, I looked at the plan, and what we did is we used the average paid claim on the plan, and looked at, well, if they would have had these 2,400 drugs filled onto the plan that they had received at the health center for free, another over $32,000 in savings from RX costs, totaling just over $112,000. So I think, overall, the health center is working very well. Christina, she manages the employees there, does a great job, and we're looking forward, actually just getting ready to kick off another HRA event here pretty soon. We're doing another drawing, another giveaway, get folks fired up about it again. Kaylee and I just discussed talking about doing some sort of workshop with the teacher appreciation or teacher back to school that's going to happen here in a couple of months. Just really just trying to engage the rest of the population, like the second email that was read, that's you can't ask for better marketing, if you will. I think once folks go and they see it's real, doctor's real, place is real, it's just, we just got to continue to press on and get folks engaged to really understand where they are.
We never expected that all of our employees would embrace New Hope in Arms to start with, but the more it's open, the more good things they see, and the more promotional things that you do, Christine. I think we will certainly begin to see a large movement towards that. And I appreciate all the work.
Board members, comment, questions for Brian?
I think it's great. He's doing a wonderful job.
Will any of those costs with the care center, with it now being open, will any of those kind of settle through like year one getting up and going, or is that already been realized, those savings?
In terms of the cost of the center operating, our numbers, with other than having standard, COLA adjustments, we won't see any cost of the health center go up at all. Other than the utilization of the drugs and we see that maybe go up, but in terms of doctor pay or the program fee, those numbers are pretty minimal in terms of increase. But over time on the plan, what we anticipate to see, and we see throughout the other plans that are operating that have long tenures, is, and we did cover it in the depth and deeper with Bob and Kaylee. We have seen a shift in the number of scripts on the plan, for example, has gone down. Inpatient costs were down, but inpatient in terms of numbers, we were up, but our cost was down. So over time, what we anticipate is seeing those plan numbers continue to level off and come down.
Mr. Delaney had a good point. Would you care to share?
Well, you were just talking about marketing. I have a harder time coming up with a better marketing testimonial than what you're getting from folks. Obviously, we could scrub the names off, but just maybe put that on the website or something where people, when they're going to make appointments or investigating more about it, maybe have a place to give other folks an opportunity to give that kind of feedback. I think that would really positively reinforce if your coworkers are saying this is a great thing.
In our monthly meetings that we have with the team, Christina, she does collect at the center. We have a comment box, and she does collect those on a monthly basis. We go through review those highlights, and we have had some of those other comments, but to have that sent out to the school like that, that's all I really is. And yeah, if we could, if the employees are okay with that, or
Just one other comment, just making the board aware, is as we mature our relationship with Care Here, the more and more things that we have been subbing out to other vendors, shall I say, as far as, like, for example, bus driver physicals, we just started that. Another thing that we were looking at is the random drug test for our bus drivers. And just, it does to do two things, and everything in here is to do two things. Number one, provide a better service for our employees in the district, and to do to reduce costs. So right now, we're looking at making drug testing for our bus drivers, shifting that procedure over to Care Here. And just as we go through, we're shifting more and more of that process there. And the whole big picture here is this is a health care program as opposed to going to a doctor's office to get better. And hopefully, long term, that you'll see less people going there for prescriptive type medicines and stuff, and more employees being well and better health and being at home at work.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Are we in line pretty much with the other first year?
Yes.
Here, as far as I know.
Yep. The participation at the health center has been rising steadily, as we anticipated. Usually, you see a higher participation, and it kind of levels off, and then over the months it continues to rise back up. And I haven't received the weekly yet for this week, but I think last week it was right at about 80% utilization.
One final comment is I was looking at unique patient participation analysis where we had 546 employees out of how many?
661.
Okay, that's a pretty good number.
Yes.
That made at least one visit.
At least one visit yeah. Very good.
Any other comments? Not, Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Ms. Katie. Okay.
And again, we'd love to have you stay if you want to. If you need to go get busy and put Brian to work, that'd be good too.
As he's wrapping up, we can have Jeff, Ron, and Chris getting ready for the voiceover.
This is something, the only thing I'm qualified to do here is to introduce. Okay?
No, Ron doesn't know who he is, so he has to introduce you right there. Okay.
Ron and Chris are going to talk to you about voice over IP, and I know some time ago we had a conversation, we had some presentations here about voice over IP and about doing that in the district, and we bring this back to you for two different reasons today. First off, we just approved the first GMT for the first three phases for Wilsonville High School. So the plan for that school is for that school to be voice over IP. So in other words, for them to be voice over IP, the hub is located here at the district office. So what they're going to talk to you about today is voice over IP here at the district office, get us organized and what that looks like in preparation for bringing on Wilson High School. And the second reason we need to have this conversation is we are funded through our voice communications by E-rate at 100%. Okay, so we get a huge break on our phone bill. Well, that deduction is being phased out in the tune of 20% per year for the next 5 years. So 5 years from now, that entire voice bill will be payable by the board in 100%. And now E-rate still funds data, and voice over IP is data. So with that being said, Ron and Chris, what they're going to eventually ask you to do is for permission to go out for either quotes or bids determining upon the amount for voice over IP for the school office. Okay?
Morning, Mr. Hastings, to the board members. Just like Mr. Edison has mentioned, he pretty much covered probably a good 40% of what I was going to talk about. But as he just mentioned, E-rate is phasing down the voice services that is being funded by 20% per year starting next year. Just to give you some numbers, we have, this is just strictly for E-rate E-rate funded local phone service. I've gathered some numbers around and see how much we paid for local phone service for the Williston, Chiefland, and Bronson schools, including the district office. And so the full amount was $46,769. for last year. Then we have to subtract what's called an ineligible item, which is the admin fee, which is 7%. That's around about $3,200. Based from our free and reduced numbers last year and this year, we are actually at 84%. So we are only responsible for 16 cents of every dollar. So if we add the 16 cents for every dollar plus the admin fee, last year we paid about $10,200. And so if we continue that trend for next year, we are going to pay around $16,000 a year. And then as the percentage of what Erie is going to pay dwindles down, then obviously we're going to incur more of the cost. Well, that's one of the biggest things that we are looking for in here, so because this in conjunction with the data upgrade that we're going to have this summer, we'll be in a better position to provide voice services, voice over IP services to all of our schools. 3 years ago, when we had the discussion with voice over IP, one of the biggest concerns that I had with the current infrastructure like what we currently have now is that we only have this one line of internet going through Williston High School and then shared among the 3 other schools. Well, we've seen it time and time before that when you knock out that one line, it knocks out all four schools. Well, this summer we're going back to the, like I mentioned about, we're going back to the same model, the old model of individual lines going back to each of the 4 schools in Williston. So that the issue that we had before would no longer be in there, and it would be more feasible for voice over IP because we're not relying on just a single line going back to Williston High School. When we were looking at a solution, we were looking at what the best fit for our district without additional costs as far as equipment was or changing equipment. And the what we currently have now is Nortel systems, which is owned by Avaya. So it just makes sense that we go with Avaya IP office. One thing that we also looked at is to make sure that this is a hosted, this is an on-premise solution, not a hosted service. The only difference between a hosted and on-premise is basically on-premise, all the equipment, all the programming is done within the district, not with a third-party ISP like AT&T or anyone else out there. One of the biggest things too is that because we chose Avaya IP office, most of our equipment in the schools now are either Nortel or which is owned by Avaya. So in turn, the biggest cost savings there would be without the changing of equipment what we currently have in the schools. So Chris was talking about this morning about it and the cost savings we're looking at.
Countywide, it's about $60,000 that we would see by going with Avaya and not Cisco or someone else, so we can use our existing phones.
We're looking at, was that about $100 per handset?
Yeah, for the new IP phones, it's about $100 per handset. And right now, if we have to replace one of the existing phones, it's about $65.
So one thing that we had to do, Chris reached out to one of the vendors we deal with out there just to see how much it would cost tentatively, if we switch over to district office with voice over IP. And the quote that they gave us, roughly estimate is about $21,000. And we also wanted to know, let's just say, hey, we want to bring in another school, how much would that cost per site? And they gave us a quote of around $7,500. Now, we don't have to, that's the good thing about this is that, we don't have to do every school at once. As funds are available, what we can do is we can start with the district office first, convert it to voice over IP system, which also, like Mr. Edison has mentioned, will be necessary in order for the new school to be tied back to us. Another thing that we're working with in this particular project is that once the new school is built, we're also going to create a redundancy factor in the Williston area so that not going to go to anything technical, but some of this pieces of this voice over IP runs on virtual servers. So we have our set of virtual servers here that will run our voicemail and the program. But also once the school is built in Williston, we'll also create another virtual server out there that would host as a backup. So in case something happens with a virtual server here, that would pick up. As long as the links are all still good, then it'll We do also in the high school, they, like Mr. Edison said, it'll be pure voice variety, equipment-wise, just like we'll be here in the county office, IP phones, IP equipment. And they would obviously going to be using Avaya systems in there that would tie into our network and also with our equipment here in the county office so that we can manage all the sites. And the biggest thing really is the management part of it. If we can manage everything programming-wise or all the trunks that you have to do, set up and all that stuff with here in the county office, that makes it a lot easier than to manage individual systems within the schools. And so, we're asking for the permission so that, to be able to go out for quotes to establish, a voice over IP system here in the county office.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Clemens, we have the money available for this?
Yes, we do. Based on the projected savings, I think we don't have a choice. We need to move in those directions.
You get a question from us there?
Yes.
So moved. Proceed.
Got a motion and a second to proceed with the recommendation. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir. Ron, with this and with bandwidth and whatnot, going to this, are we still going to have enough whenever it's obviously testing time? And will that help with this situation? Will that be a concern?
I feel confident that with the upgrades that we're going to have, as far as having a 1 gigabit connection to each school. Now, if we were only going to upgrade to like 100 megs per school, then I would say, maybe. And there's another thing too with one thing to keep in mind is that with the E-rate, how they worded this one, in my understanding, and I've checked with another folk that I work with DFAC as far as how the funding goes with voice services. I know the language is that they're funding out, the phasing out the funding for E-rate for voice services. That's fine, but obviously we're going to keep the data funding. But the argument there is, okay, how do you know if you need to cost allocate the cost of voice if it's traveling on your network, right? The way that I understood it, the way he understood it, is that only if we limit the bandwidth in the on our pipes. Let's just say, we have a 1 gig pipe, we're going to dedicate 100 megs of it for voice. Then I'm now because I'm quantifying that, and I need to cost allocate what 100 megabits of service is, take that out, and then obviously I could not have that with funding. But since I'm not limiting that, I'm just going to say, hey, voice is just going to go however it goes, which we don't really anticipate a lot much of a bandwidth because voice packets are not really that big. It's not like a streaming video or a streaming radio or anything like that it's going to take a lot of bandwidth. But like I mentioned, with the increased band of 1 gigabit per site, I think we'll be more than able to handle the additional bandwidth for school, for obviously for testing and the day-to-day operation part.
Ron, increase from what to 1 gig?
Right now, our schools have this year have different speeds of how we are applied for. So like let's just take Chiefland Elementary School. What we did this year to be close as letter to the law as far as the bandwidth per student, that you have a recommendation of 100 kilobits per second per student, is that I divided the number of students by 100 megs, 1,000 megs, and so I can have some right numbers in there. So in any rate, like Chief Elementary School, they have a 65 meg connection, but on average, some of the schools only have a 30 meg connection. So if we're talking about 100 megs just like a Chief on high school, that they would have 10 times as much. If they have a 30 meg connection, they'll be what would that be, like 30, yeah, 10, 30 times as much. So we'll have a lot bigger bandwidth available for everyone.
After yours?
Yes, sir.
I think the motion was indicating that we can move forward.
Yes, sir.
there a figure monetarily we're looking at moving forward with this morning, or will that come back?
I think we're asking
We'll
for,
have to bring the quotes back to you. It
I
depends
understand you're
on
going out to seek bids right now, right?
Right, well, right now, from his initial investigation, it's not in the bid dollar amount. So it's a, board policy says if it's below a certain threshold, you just have to get quotes. If it's above a certain threshold, they can get bids. Right now, they're below the threshold on the first investigation. So what they're asking for is to go out and get quotes, and they'll bring them.
Everybody have a motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks very much, sir. Ms. Pam, on the minutes, are there any corrections or anything?
No, sir.
Chair then seek a motion for approval.
Move we accept minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the night of the April 14th meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Consent agenda. No more volunteers. Is there any corrections?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let's see, on the consent agenda, page 1, under D, professional leave. Number 2, for L. Page Mace, for Page Mace, one project number will be paid from SEDNet, project 40234, 2015. And we're on number 3, that was number 2. Number 3, we're going to add a couple more ladies that are going to the annual conference. Dolly Burke and Mariel Mills. And then, I have put down their expenses paid internal account, but that's actually going to be paid by the Lee County School Nutrition Association. And they work to raise money for that. And that's on here.
Is that was inclusive of the addition to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone want to volunteer to start? Or?
I don't think I have it.
Okay. That's Bill, thank you.
I'm good.
Howard?
And I have had all my questions answered. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate having our schedule for,
On the addition to the consent agenda, the attachment regarding the virtual school and our agreement with DFAC. I understand all of it until we get over to the second page there where it says Calvert, grade K6. Is that a entity that
Calvert is a virtual provider,
is a virtual provider?
and that's not new language, that's already old language. And much of this we've had.
I'll ask that question, and that's very
And this revision is essentially the answering all the questions.
Same thing with the, fuel education, K-12, is that
Virtually,
a virtual school?
providing it.
And that's a question that I have not previously had an answer, so we're seeking a motion.
I have one more question. Sorry. On the superintendent approval items, what is the Google Docs training in 16, 17?
Art Rivers would be
Hey, that as we move more towards students using devices in the classroom, we're heading more towards a Google platform. And so we have a teacher coming from a district that's all they use, and she's going to train teachers on using Google Docs, Google Sheets, the presentation, how to have students submit work through Google Docs and give feedback. Both days are slam full, and I'm getting still getting requests, so it's.
Wow, yeah, I can see that's great, it's wonderful. Let us know how that goes.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. Thank you.
We're now seeking a motion.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. including the addition to. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. J, Mr. Superintendent, item J.
Sometimes I'm worried.
Sometimes I'm worried myself.
While we're talking about technology, I would like to bring to your attention that with the state having a reserve from Race to the Top money that they have to have spent by June the 30th, as Race to the Top is going away permanently at that point in time. Our portion of that would be $244,000, which has to be spent totally on student technology. And we can't buy any teaching devices or administration stuff. It's only for students. And we've composed letters and wrote a plan, and I don't think we've heard back as of today, but we should hear back by next week, which hopefully, which time is of the essence, as that money has to be encumbered by June the 30th. So we have a plan in place, and we will certainly make sure that that is reality when we get the okay to move forward. The other part, which is not set permanently at this point in time, but in the governor's budget, he wanted $80 million spent on technology for this year with all the testing and so forth. And it's also in the House budget, but not the Senate budget. And then, of course, we have the budgets colliding with each other, basically over Medicaid issues. But that has held up the finalization. This should be the last week of the legislation, but who knows when the last week will be at this point in time. A lot of jockeying for position is going on as we now speak. But anyway, if that comes to fruition, which I suspect it will, $80 million, our portion would be a little less than $600,000 in that realm, in order to take care of infrastructure and those things that we might need in place to fulfill all the requirements by the state. And so we look forward to that being happening as the legislatures get together on the budget. Of course, that one's not finalized, but I certainly anticipate it. The other part of that is that they then incorporate this into our FEFP, our funding, and so when they talk about giving 3% more to the schools and so on and so forth to the districts, you have to realize that we don't have more money to spend at will, but we have more money to spend in certain categories, as this is a categorical item, and would not be available for to buy buses or give raises or anything of that nature. But anyway, keep that in mind. I also laid a letter from Bobby McCollum and Sheriff McCollum on your desk, which we had a very serious situation, and we had people responding to it. And the point that I want to make is that you, as a board and the administration of the Lee County school system, takes all threats to teachers or students or anything very seriously. And likewise, our sheriff department and our local police agencies take it very serious also. And through a concerted effort run basically by Mr. Edison, they were able to get finalization on that night. And while he and I were in constant communication by phone, it was Gloria's 39th wedding anniversary, and so we were in another county having dinner when all of this unfolded. And so I can't tell you how appreciative I am of everybody here, Barb and Michael and Candy. They worked diligently to help facilitate all this. And as did the sheriff's department. And at the school, Mr. Gibbs and Ms. Legler and Kevin Whitaker, Ms. Gowan, Ms. Banner, Ms. Wilhite, they all just worked till 9 o'clock that night to make sure that our teachers and our students were safe. So, very big thank you to everybody on our staff, and thank you to Dr. McCollum and the Sheriff's Office for what they did. You have in front of you a colorful buckle up for safety signs, and we have those completed. Got a couple up, and I wanted y'all to see them firsthand and know what they will look like. It's eye-catching, and it should make somebody think about it. So anyway, that was Mr. Philpott's last request for the school board members, and so we got that taken care of. I'm sure he's happy. Yeah. Thank you. All of y'all received a schedule of events. We will update that as we get information from the schools, but if anything y'all want to attend, you can certainly ask us or ask the school, and we'll get you the information.
No, okay, well, question there, we don't want to sound whichever direction, but do we need to like wait on invites to things like the FFA banquets, or notify them we're coming, or that would be the best way to handle that, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. I'm sure that they would like to know that you're coming just to make proper preparations, but you do not need an invite. You are welcome, all of y'all are welcome at any and all events, and feel free to come, and the only reason you may need to notify them is so that they can prepare properly. That's it. Anything else?
Yes, sir, I have one other. At one point in time, we were discussing that there would be the possibility of some necessary additional funds for the new high school. You made any inroads into those requests, or are we still waiting on the proper time with the budget talks and stuff in Tallahassee?
Both. I mean, we are working diligently on securing more funds and looking at all avenues and means of accessibility. And just as important, we're looking at ways to save money without taking away from any of the necessities of opening that school and making it an elite school. And so we're working diligently like that, but I don't want anybody to be overly concerned about the money. We will be there, and we will get the job done. And like I said, there's no plan B, because plan A is going to work.
Thank you,
Superintendent. God willing. I do want to, and I meant to mention this, a lot have been in the news lately about testing in some of the larger counties, Dade in particular, and Broward also, and I'm waiting I'd be interested to hear what Duval County's going to do. But the EOCs that they have done away with, that does create an obstacle for the state in dealing out evaluations and performance pay. And just like everything else, all of this is a little late for us right now. We've talked about this at great length of where we want to be and still stay in good graces with the state, and yet be fair to our teachers and our students. And our feeling at the present time is we need to give the state a little room to sort this out and wait for some direction there. All of us agree there's too much testing. There's nobody that would disagree with that. Me personally, I like our EOCs a whole lot better than I like the air test. If they're going to chunk something in the mud, I wish it was the air test, because that's, to me, is the bear that needs to be changed. And that's my thoughts on that. And any questions? If you got any questions, feel free to call, because I know y'all gonna get questions out in the community. But we've all been well versed in it, Dr. Winnett and Jeff and so forth, so feel free to call anybody. Anything else?
Good.
Why are you grinning?
I'm just asking that.
I'm scared to call him anymore.
Okay, inside. Mr. Asbell, do you have any comments?
I have one brief one. I'd like to pull your attention to the 2015 schedule for our high schools. If you'll notice over here at the Williston High School, I wish Robert Philpott was here for me to share this with you. Williston has already put down there in the baseball regional semifinals at home and planning on attending the state semifinals and the state finals. But I happen to know a team in Bronson won their district game the other night for the first time in about forever. Bronson is the district champs, and we have a home game May the 5th, and we make big plans to go to these two, but we're going to win them one at a time. We're not so presumptive as to say. But I want to personally invite every one of y'all to come see us beat Hamilton County on the 5th, right here.
So
Bronson
you're,
High School State.
so you're a half empty glass.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. Whatever.
Anything else? Mr. Asbell?
Thanks,
Thank you
sir.
for
That's
that.
all I got. Thrilled to death with it.
Piggyback on that just for a second, I am so proud of Bronson winning their district in baseball, and also Williston, and which beat Chiefland 1-0 in one of the best baseball games. And so all three of those teams will be going on to the region.
I think it's great.
And Chiefland softball won their district, so they'll be going, they play tonight.
Yeah.
I went by there this morning to check the infield, they have it all tarped off, so if we get a little bit of sun, they can play tonight if not.
One of the great highlights of Bronson winning the district tournament was we beat Trenton in Trenton. They're not against my man, but that was awesome.
But wasn't the score 1-0 as well?
It was a 1-point victory. It was like 5-4.
Yeah, 5-4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We do have the potential of having all Lee County State mine.
it is possible. And that would be fantastic.
Sure would.
And I gotta say, back in the 80s, we had a baseball coach that messed up, man, he couldn't. But
We went on in 2 occasions to regionals.
With that guy?
Yeah. We were ranked number 4 in the state one time, and ranked in the state another year.
Thank goodness for those Winningham boys, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know that had anything to do with coaching. I know that was just.
Okay, I'm sorry, but be remiss, but I needed to probably start on the far end because it would be of a legal nature, Mr. Delaney.
No comments.
Either no comments or you can't follow that.
I'll turn it over to the rest of the board.
Okay, Mr. Collins.
I'm on a first, Miss Gallen was mentioned, but I happened to be in Gainesville and I was at an appointment and I had a parent, so I said, well, where you live? I live in Morriston. Oh, do you have kids? Yes, I have a senior at Williston High School. And I just let her talk and didn't say a whole lot. Anyways, they had moved here from Arizona or Connecticut anyways, and was just a talking, and I said, well, how does he like Williston High School? And she was very, very complimentary of Miss Gallen and basically said if it wasn't for Miss Gallen staying on my senior who has senioritis, so I tip my cap to Miss Gallen because she was mentioned to me late last week, so with Mr. Philpott not being here, I didn't get to tell him that, so. A couple things, Cedar Key, the FFA, we have a state champion in OH demos, and they happen to be a 5-time, so these kids, have won 5 straight years, so, and it's Mackenzie and Emily, the 2 girls, so Denny was very good when we had one that placed second, so, and then the other thing is we have 3 students that are advancing track to the regionals, and 2 of them are in the adaptive. And one is Annie McCain, who does the shot put, and then also has a 3-wheel bike that she does, I believe, the 100 meters. So she's going on, and the other is Sam Parks, so who's a 7th grader, so in the shot put for adaptive. So, and I went out for the county meet and to watch those 2 kids, kids who are just wonderful kids, and just I like being with Grace and being around them and see them, so I'm just very, very happy for them, and I appreciate Brad, Penny, and Miss Kim Penny, and taking them here, there, and yonder, going all over the place, so very happy for them.
Softball tonight. Those girls are really excited. They got to see us a team last night, but they're very, very excited. And then also, is Teacher Appreciation next week? Is that,
Yes.
that's correct, so, okay. So I want to just verify that. That's all I have, thank you.
I think Ms. Pam and Angela mainly responsible for
Yeah,
putting this together.
Yes.
I personally thank them for that, and not to pay too much attention to Mr. Adams' little remarks about being left off or whatever on there. Thank you for that. And I would also like to, at this point in time, thank the superintendent and staff. This was one of the, in my opinion, anyway, more informative, meetings that we have had regarding getting information to the board on a number of different items that are very interesting to all of us. So, Mr. Superintendent, thank y'all, you and staff for bringing that to us.
Mr. Chair, also Evening of Excellence is May 11th, that's correct, so at Williston Elementary.
So, together around 5:30.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else come forward? We're going to Chiefland Middle High School, meet at the high school principal office area.